Scottish football needs a shake-up, and this is where it starts. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Improving Scottish Football podcast. My name is Kieran, and on the episode today, we are going to be exploring both Belgian football and also Right to Dream with Frazer Robertson, who is currently the first team coach at Standard Liege. But before we dive in, please do make sure you are subscribed or follow the podcast, and also give us a 5-star review if you haven't done so already, and hit that like button and all that good stuff. So there we go. Frazer, a very warm welcome to the pod. Thank you for joining us. Can you give us a quick introduction to yourself for those who don't know you?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the invite. Happy to be on and chat football. As you said at the start, my name's Frazer Robertson. I'm currently working at Standard Liege in Belgium. I've been here now, this is my third season in Belgium. Previously, before that, I was in America at Philadelphia Union. Before that, I'd spent 8 years in Ghana and time in Denmark. And before that, I was in Scotland at St Mirren Football Club. I was there for a long time. And during my time there as well, I also worked with the Scottish FA as a football development officer. So that's my kind of journey on backwards. But yeah, I started at St Mirren, which was a great grounding for me.
So that journey that took you from St Mirren to Ghana, explain how that came about and what that experience was like.
How I got to Ghana from St Mirren? Yeah, I think like a lot of things, it's about kind of meeting people and getting to know people. So it actually came through, when that would have been, I'm going back now, because maybe 2005, 2006, when I was doing my B licence. I did my B licence with another Scottish gentleman called Gareth Henderby, and Gareth has been out in Ghana for many years. So we were on the B licence together, and then a year later we were on the A licence together. So like most of these courses, you get to know people, you kind of network, and we kind of became friends, and we kept in contact from time to time. And then fast forward to 2013, it would have been. We were just having a conversation, and I'd always had the ambition of working outside of Scotland and the UK. I'd never thought Ghana would be a destination for me. And then Gareth had mentioned, is it something that I would be interested in? And then things kind of moved quickly, and before I knew it, I was in Ghana.
So it was Right to Dream that you went to work for.
Yes.
So can you explain, for those who don't know much about Right to Dream, just take us through the basics and what your actual involvement was as a coach, what it involved?
Yeah, I mean, when I went out, Right to Dream were already an established, especially in West Africa, was an established academy. It's not just a football academy, it's also a residential school and football academy. So it's a full education, full scholarship for all the students, boys and girls. Had boys teams and girls teams. So when I first went out there, I went out as I was just one of the kind of head coach. So I was responsible for working with the players, and then also helping with coach development. Gareth Henderby was the technical director, so he dealt with all football related business off the grass, and I kind of dealt with all football related on the grass, and worked very closely with Gareth as my kind of line manager. So there was a lot of coaching, which was great. That's what I wanted to do, as well as kind of helping with coach development as well.
So tell me a little bit more about this kind of education and character building that goes alongside the actual football at Right to Dream.
Yeah, there's 3 pillars, and obviously there's probably evolved in the time since I've left, as well as maybe 4 years ago now since I left. And one thing with the organisation, it's grown a lot. It's owned by an Egyptian family, the Mansour family, and that's the expansion for when they've come on board has been remarkable. So when I was there, it was the residential academy in Ghana. And then they had kind of 3 pillars in terms of football, education, and kind of character development. And that's just obviously about life skills, social skills type of thing, and things that that everyone's responsible for, like your school teachers, your coaches, your family, and it's just about emphasising that, especially preparing young people to go and live, whether it's in the football world or the education world. A lot of the students would then move to maybe the US, maybe to Europe for football. So it's about learning then to living in different countries, different cultures, etc.
And obviously, Right to Dream, they own Nordsjælland. In Denmark. I think they bought them in 2015. And the whole point of that is to offer direct kind of player pathways into Europe. Can you talk a little bit about the success that's had?
It's been a great kind of model for all the players. As I said, when I arrived, it was just the academy in Ghana. When I arrived in 2013, and then it was around the end of 2015, start of 2016, that the organisation in Ghana bought the club in Denmark. And I think they were very well suited in terms of FC Nordsjælland already had an existing reputation of developing a lot of young players, giving young players the opportunity. And that seemed like the perfect kind of fit between the two organisations, and an ideal club that already had a structure in place to develop young players. And that's what the organisation in Ghana was looking for. So it was a really good fit in terms of the infrastructure that FC Nordsjælland already had. So the pathway was then direct for players to then progress to Nordsjælland from Ghana. There was also other players that didn't necessarily go that direction. They maybe went to other professional clubs, and they chose to go other way to other clubs, which they could. And then also some students would go maybe down the education pathway that would maybe go to the US or sometimes the UK and an academic scholarship. So they would continue their studies as well as continuing their football. And then other students would then go down the professional route, signing with FC Nordsjælland in Denmark or other professional clubs in Europe.
And tell me about some of the players that have been through the Right to Dream Academy. I mean, you must have worked with quite a few big names now.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate as a lot of the staff, coaches, teachers. It's been nice to play a small part and be a part of and experience the journey with some of the players. And even now, there's still players coming through the system in Denmark with the Danish players, the system in Ghana with the Ghanaian players and Ivorian players. And now you have Egypt on the academy, and I'm sure in the near future there'll be players now coming through that pathway. During my time at the academy, there was a lot of good players, good people that came through. Obviously, boys like maybe Mohamed Kudus that people would maybe be aware of at West Ham. You have Simona Dingra who plays at Brighton. There's so many boys that you could mention. There's Ibrahim Sadiq who plays at AZ Alkmaar. Kamaldeen Suleimana who plays at Southampton. Abdul Mumin who plays at Real Vallecano in La Liga. A lot of top players that have done really well. You've got Kamal Soa who played in Belgium, who was actually on loan at Standard Liege last year, who's now playing at NAC Breda. I have Abu Francis who played at Cercle Bruges, who would have played against Hearts this year in the Europa League. So there's a lot of top players, and there's many more that might not be household names, but they're having a very good career in Europe, and they're progressing well with their careers.
And obviously, I'll throw in Diomande as well. Obviously,
yes.
Given the Scottish aspects of the pod. But did you notice when you were working there? Did you notice any key differences between kind of young players in Africa compared to young players in Scotland, whether it be talent or technique or mindset?
Yeah, as you said, Diomande, I knew there'd be one that I'd miss.
Well, we would get a row from the Rangers fans if we didn't.
I think Diomande will be unhappy with me as well. No, as I said, Dio's a top lad as well, and he went through that pathway, going into Denmark, doing really well, and then progressing on to Rangers, and obviously his career's continued. For me, the differences. Is there differences with young people? I think a 14-year-old in Ghana or a 14-year-old anywhere, they're still teenagers and they still have maybe issues that everybody has with teenagers. One thing that I found a little bit more was I do feel they had a bit more of a drive and a bit more of a focus, the players that I worked with in Ghana, and that was a mixture. It wasn't just Ghanaians, as I said. Diamande was there, who's from Ivory Coast. Simona Dingra is from Ivory Coast. We have some boys, Adamo Nagalo, who plays at PSV. He plays for Burkina Faso. So there was a lot of boys that come from West Africa that came to the academy. And again, like working with young people, they're teenagers and they have these issues that all teenagers have all over the world. But I did feel there was I felt that the players had a wee bit more focus and a wee bit more drive, and a little bit more self-ownership in their kind of pathway and their journey, and I was there to support them in that journey.
Interesting. Okay. Now, again, I know you've been out of it for a few years, but just to stay on Right to Dream just a little bit longer, there has been some chat about a Scottish club potentially getting involved with Right to Dream. Have you heard anything about that? Can you shed any gossip, any light?
No, that's actually the first. That's the first I've heard of that as well. So maybe your knowledge is maybe more than mine at the moment on that. No, that's not something. I know. Obviously, I still have a lot of good friends that still work at the organisation and had worked at the organisation. And I know with the new ownership, they're always looking to expand and develop, as they have done with San Diego. So it's a great story and how an academy in Ghana has developed into a global organisation, and I think that's credit to a lot of people that have put a lot of effort and work over the years and maybe unseen and unheard of. But I'm pretty sure that the organisation will be looking to expand in other places, whether that's Scotland, and who knows, time will tell.
Do you think it could be a good thing for a Scottish club to be involved, with Right to Dream?
Yeah, I think any club. I mean, you've seen the quality of players, some of the players that we had just mentioned there, and the level that they're playing at, and I think that would help any club in any league when you have that level of player coming into any league or any team would obviously enhance it. So I think any club that was able to kind of get access or gain the education and the pathway that these young players have came through, whether it's the young players in Ghana, the young players in Denmark or Egypt, that they would be gaining some quality players.
Do you think we should just generally? Africa seems to be one of these markets that's quite untapped when it comes to Scottish football. Should we be, should clubs generally be looking more, to that continent?
My answer straight away would be yes. I know in the past that maybe it's been a bit more difficult, and I'm not too clued up now on the rules, especially with Brexit and things like that. Now I know in the past it was harder for maybe African players to come straight into the UK in terms of work permit situation. So I think maybe in the past, and I can't talk for everyone, but maybe it's been a case of that clubs have wanted to do it, but there's been restrictions and it's not been as simple. Maybe some of those restrictions have left, and obviously you can mention numerous players that do play for African countries that play in Scotland and in the UK, but sometimes they've played somewhere else in Europe before entering into the UK. However, I don't know if those kind of rules and restrictions have lifted. That's now come out with football. But for me, from my experiences working in West Africa, the quality of player, the creativity, the individual qualities that you could access and gain from players who come through that culture is definitely top players. If you look at the leagues all over the world, even if you look at the Premier League, that it's African players from all over the continent that are having a big impact in the league, and that's what makes football great. That there's players from all over the world. If you look at the English Premier League, there's players from every part of the continent, every part of the world playing in the Premier League, and Africa as a continent is definitely having a big impact in that.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's continue our kind of global journey. So your next move was to Philadelphia. So tell us a little about that, because they obviously play in the MLS. How did that come about, and what was it like working in the MLS? I mean, it must have been quite different from Ghana.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, my last few years in Ghana, it was great. My time was spent between Ghana and Denmark. Once we took the partnership and the two clubs kind of joined together. So that was a great experience for me at Nordsjælland. It's my time in Denmark as well as my time in Ghana. But then opportunities sometimes come up. And I felt when the opportunity came up to go to America, it was maybe the right time for me as well. I'd been in Ghana and then kind of Denmark back and forward in total of 8 years. So it was a kind of natural progression, I think, for myself. And it actually came about with Tommy Wilson, who used to be at Rangers. So Tommy at the time was the academy director out there. He'd been out there for a good few years and had helped build the club and helped build the academy. And Tommy had reached out to me and asked if it was something that I'd be interested to come out in a kind of transition role, coach kind of position, which then kind of evolved into kind of head of professional phase at Philadelphia Union. So it was working with the second team and as an assistant coach, but there was a big emphasis on working with the best talents between the under 15s, 17s, B team to help progress with the top talents within the club to prepare them for first team football.
Was there anything else about, let's say soccer? Yeah. That must have driven you mad, having to constantly call it soccer. Was there anything different that the Americans did, or anything really new or positive that you discovered?
I was amazed by the structure and around the whole academy. There was so much full-time staff, not just coaches, in terms of physios, performance. I thought the structure and the support that the players had was magnificent. There was similarities to Ghana in terms of there was a school attached to Philadelphia Academy, and even Philadelphia now has even expanded now. Just as I was leaving, they'd started development in a training ground. So when I was there was the academy, which was about 30 minutes from the stadium. And then there was the training ground at the stadium. So the training ground at the stadium was for the first team and the second team. And then 30 minutes away, there was the academy. But the academy was attached to a school. So all the players within the Philadelphia Union, I would say about 90% of the players all attended this one school, which was attached to the academy. So that was a great thing. So players could train in the morning, players could train in the afternoon. Coaches had access maybe to some of the students during the day for maybe some video sessions in between their classes. And as I say, the support staff in terms of coaches and everything that they had were all based there. So I was really impressed by the investment, first and foremost from the academy, to do that, which then also would help with producing players for the first team.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, that just seems to be a thing in America. I mean, I guess there's a lot of money over there, which is helpful.
Yeah, I think like anything, the more money, I think sometimes, the more money, then the better you can do. I think that's only the case if the money's invested wisely and it's invested in the right areas. And I thought Philadelphia were very good at that in terms of the money that they invested in the academy, the money that they invested in the first team, the facilities was excellent. Even obviously in America, a lot of games, there's a lot of travelling within that, especially with the B team and the first team. Nearly every single away game is a flight, and even when the academy teams travelled to kind of MLS tournaments and MLS events, the support and even just simple things to the hotels and the resources that they had at the hotels was, at times I was like, this is probably better than some professional clubs, and this was like the under 15s and under 17s. So the the facilities and how Philadelphia facilitated the academy to allow the players the best opportunity, I thought was excellent. But I mean, anyone that's been to America, even just on holiday, like I don't think they do anything in small measures. Everything is a little bit bigger, and I got the impression that at Philadelphia, the mindset was, if we're going to do something, then we'll do it right. We won't do it half. And obviously Tommy, who's now moved on to Charlotte in the MLS, was a big part of that, because I think when he went over, it was like starting an academy from scratch. And then when I arrived, it was already a massive academy, and I think 2 or 3 years in a row they were voted MLS Academy of the Year.
Cool. So moving on again, then, I'm assuming did you meet Ronny Deila when he was coaching? Is it New York?
No, it was actually funny. So it was actually through the sporting director, Fergal Harkin.
Oh,
so I met Fergal when I first started working in Ghana. At that point, Right to Dream had a working relationship with Manchester City, and Fergal worked with Manchester City, and he was our kind of point of contact. So Fergal had moved out here to Standard Liege as the sporting director, and he had spoke to me about the possibility of something being here. I'd actually met Ronnie after he'd left Celtic. I went actually and spent a week with him when he was back out in Norway at Vålerenga. So that was the only kind of connection that I'd had with Ronnie before. And then I'd met him briefly when both of us were in the MLS, when the two B teams, New York and Philadelphia, had played each other, and Ronnie was there watching the game, and we had a brief chat again. So then Ronnie was the manager at Standard Liege. Fergal was the sporting director. I spoke to Fergal about coming out, and then I had a few conversations with Ronnie, and the kind of rest is history, as they say.
So what was it like working under Ronny Deila at Standard Liège then? Did you just have him, were you just with him for, 6 months or something? Because he was only there about a year, right?
Yeah, he was there. He was at Standard for a year, so for one season. And I came halfway through that season. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, even though it was a short, it was half a season. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from him. Not just on the grass in terms of coaching and preparing a team, but his man management and his individual management, not just with the players but also with the staff, I thought was excellent. It was a really good working environment. It was an environment that he pushed you and tested you in a professional way to get you better. He did the same with the players as well as the staff, and I really enjoyed working with him, and I learned a lot.
So you obviously stayed on as first team coach, and you've worked under a couple of different managers as well. Yes. What's that been like? Because obviously, different managers coming in, different styles. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's been good. When Ronnie left, there was a couple of games left of the season, so we finished those games, and then we came back for pre-season, and Carol Hawken had came in. And I really enjoyed working with Carol. He was great. Carol had previously been the Bruges manager, had got Bruges to the last 16 of the Champions League, and it was quite ironic because Ronnie had left to become the Bruges manager, and then Carol was out of a job because he recently left Bruges, and then he'd come in the start of the following
was it literally just like a swap almost?
Almost, yeah. Bruges had obviously parted company with Carol, and then at the end of the season they had approached Ronnie, and then there was like a window in between, because they gave it to, I think they just gave it to the assistant coach internally till the end of the season at Bruges before appointing Ronnie. So there was a couple of months in between Ronnie leaving and then Carol coming in to Standard. But yeah, Carol was great. Again, different personality, but still his attention to detail, similar to Ronnie in terms of on the grass. His attention to detail and how he kind of helped the players develop, but also the staff. And I got on really well with him, and I really enjoyed working under him. And now we have Ivan Lecco, who's in as the first team manager, has been here for a year. And again, you learn from everyone that you work with. Ivan's had a lot of experience in Belgium. He's won the league with Bruges. He's won the cup with Antwerp. So he's a man with a lot of experience. And as you say, everyone you work with, you pick up things and you can adapt it for your own preferences, because we all have our own preferences. We all have our own way. But the experiences that I've had with the three has been valuable.
So he got sacked from Bruges despite taking them to the last 16 of the Champions League. It's a bit harsh. Yeah,
that from what I've been told, Bruges it's a hard club to manage. I think it was the league performances that I think that cost him his job, which is very hard as you can see every week, where sometimes clubs try to manage the Champions League and also managing the domestic league sometimes can be challenging. So yeah, but again, as Bruges have shown again this year in the Champions League, that they're a top team with some top players.
Oh, absolutely phenomenal! Like, they have done so well. Really, really impressive. Yeah. Which kind of leads us on nicely to talk about Belgian football as a whole, because it is very strong. I mean, again, for a country with a population of 12 million, both domestically and internationally, punching above its weight, I think it's fair to say. The league is super competitive. I think it's tricky to call it any year, right? So, what is Belgium doing right?
That's a good question. As you said, the league is very good. I enjoy working here. It's very competitive. There's a lot of big clubs. I mean, I knew of Standard Liege before I came here. I think it's a kind of well-known name, but until I came here, I didn't realise the size of the club inside Belgium in terms of Belgian football. It has been incredible. Not just Standard, but you also look at clubs like Bruges, as we mentioned. You've got Anderlecht, you've got Antwerp, you've got Genk, you've got Ghent. There's a lot of big clubs within the one country, and I think that's what helps add to the competitiveness of the league, because it's very much a competitive league. As you said, there's not one or two teams that dominate year in, year out. Even in my time here, you've got Union as well. Union have been very unlucky in the past few years not to win the league. In the past couple of years, you've had Bruges that have won it. You've had Antwerp that have won it. This year, you have Genk who are doing very, very well. So I think that's what helps the league as well, that there is a lot of big teams that compete at the top for the top six every year. But even that is that everyone can beat everyone at some point. It's definitely one of those leagues where it's hard to predict results because maybe the bottom half teams can at times go and beat a top half team, which maybe you don't get in every league. So that definitely helps with the competitiveness and basically the entertainment of the league.
Yeah, you mentioned Union. So this is obviously Union Saint-Gilloise.
Yes.
So this is obviously relevant to Scottish football because also owned by kind of Jameson, or involved with Jameson Analytics and Tony Bloom, which is obviously what Hearts have got. And Union have had a bit of a meteoric rise. They've come into the top flight because they were previously in the division below, right?
Yeah, I think even they were in a couple of divisions, and they've over the past few years they've built themselves up. I think historically, going back many hundreds of years ago, they were like a big club, and then obviously they kind of fell away. And I think for a long time they kind of played in the lower leagues, and then obviously the investment that you mentioned there has then projected them to where they are now.
I mean, I know you don't obviously have any you're not on the inside there, but have you been impressed looking at them? How well they've been able to do, and is it obvious from the outside that they are fully embracing their analytical journey?
Yeah, I mean, we actually play them on Sunday away, so it'll be a hard game. And when I first arrived here, Simone Adingra played for them, the boy who's at Brighton now, and obviously I worked with Simone in Ghana. So I actually spent a bit of time with him because both of us were new to Belgium. and he spoke really well of the club. He really enjoyed it. It was a great place for him. Obviously, he was at Nordsjælland. He then was signed by Brighton, and Brighton loaned him out straight away to Union, and he had a great season. He's returned back to Union, so he spoke really well of the club. He really enjoyed it there. It was a great, and I think the league is good for that as well, for young players, young talented players to come in and get the opportunity to play, which happened with Simone. And even just now, there's another boy that comes from the academy in Ghana, Mohamed Fassini, who plays for Union as well now this season, who just signed from them, from Sturm Graz. And again, because I've known Fassini for a long time, I've chatted with him a few times and we've met up. And again, he loves it there. It's a really good club, well run, but they've got a lot of good players within it, and they've competed. Not just for 1 or 2 years, they've competed at the top of the league for the past few years, and then also played in Europe.
I'd like to kind of touch a little bit about the league setup in Belgium, because obviously it has been a 16-team league. I think it will still be next year, and granted, yes, it's a little bit crazy, but for the broadly speaking, I love it from the outside because it makes things super competitive. It maximizes drama and jeopardy. What's it been like being involved in it? And did you see the change coming? Because they've obviously just announced that they're moving to an 18-team league and making it a very kind of standard affair, yes, from in a couple of seasons' time.
Yeah, it's that just came out of it, I think, this week, and I think it's nearly 100% that it will happen. I think a few clubs, not necessarily in the top league, but I think in the second division, the second league, there's still a few clubs that have maybe been against some of the changes, which you're always going to get. You can't keep everyone happy. There's always going to be somebody or something. You can't have a system that suits everyone. I think if you're involved in the top playoff one in Belgium, then it definitely is very entertaining, because then you're competing for the championship. Playoff 2, at times, depending on where you're situated in playoff 2, because potentially in playoff 2 you can still access that last European spot. So you have that to play for as well. But sometimes the teams in playoff 2, if you're down the bottom bit of playoff 2, then you're not going to be able to compete for that European spot. So sometimes then it can maybe not be meaningless games, because there's no such thing, because you can still obviously want to finish as high as possible, but it maybe loses a little bit of the competitiveness. And then obviously you go to the playoff 3, which is relegation, which in every league there's always going to be kind of drama and that kind of competitiveness when it comes to a relegation battle. And now they're deciding to change. Well, in 2 seasons' time, they'll revert back to just a normal home away 2 fixtures, and everyone plays everyone. I think what they have just now, it works. I think previously I'd heard that they used to just have the playoff and then other teams would finish. So the season would finish like very early for a lot of teams, which again I didn't think that worked in Belgium. So that's why they've then introduced the 3-tier kind of playoff kind of system. It definitely is entertaining, especially I think 2 years ago, Antwerp won the league with the last kick of the ball in the 96th minute of the last game, which was big drama, and that was like not even being a part of that, but just being in the country and seeing it on the TV was pretty special. So I think, like anything, football will always bring drama, entertainment, especially when it comes to that top of the league, bottom of the league kind of situations with playoffs, etc. And I don't know the reasons why they've decided to add 2 more teams and do away with the playoffs in the future, but I think you'll never get rid of the drama and that kind of excitement of football, regardless of your league structure.
And what a goal that was as well. Alderweireld, I mean,
yes,
thunderbolt from the edge of the box into the top bin. I mean, it's just absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, it was. It's the kind of, that's the kind of things you kind of imagine when you're a young kid playing at the park growing up. But yeah, that way I'm sure that moment will live with him for the rest of his career and his life.
Mm. Do you think more young Scottish coaches should look to work abroad?
I can only talk about my experiences, and I'm glad I've done it. I left. It's nearly 13 years ago now that I left, and I'll be honest. When I left, I never thought I would still be away 13 years later. So I think everyone's got to find their kind of pathway, and I'm really fortunate. And I say this a lot. Like, I'm fortunate to have any job, never mind a job I would do as a hobby. And then I'm even more fortunate that I've got a job that's allowed me to travel the world at times, and that's where my journey and my pathway's taken me. That doesn't mean that it would be for everyone. For me personally, and I can only talk about my experiences doing it, as I said earlier on, for me it's one of the best decisions that I've made. Not just because of the experiences and the people that I've got to meet, but just to get different views, not just in football, but also in life, living in different cultures, meeting different people from all over the world. And I feel that it's helped me develop as a person, which has then helped me develop as a coach. So it might be a bit of a long answer that I would recommend to do it, but that's what I've done, and that's what's been good for me. There's maybe some people that think, no, I'm happy in Scotland. It's not something that I would want to do. I would recommend anyone to get the opportunity to do it if they had it, and not necessarily go and do it for 13 years. Maybe they might be 1 or 2 years and they move back home. But my advice to anyone, if they got the opportunity to work abroad, it's maybe the same as players. They get that one opportunity to play abroad, then you maybe want to take it, because it really does open up your eyes of not just football, but as I say, life as well.
Would you like to be a manager, Frazer?
I would never say never. Yes. I really enjoy what I do just now. Who knows what the future holds, especially in football. Things can change very quickly. Things can change very dramatically at times. So, as I say, I love what I do. I love my job here. I enjoy working for the club. I'm lucky to work with a lot of good people. I say, like everyone, I've got ambitions. My ambitions to work at the highest level possible. I feel that I'm working at a really good level at the moment. And again, if an opportunity come up in the future, then it's definitely something I would consider.
Nice. Good stuff. Right. Well, I think that's kind of bringing the pod to a close, to be honest, Frazer. Is there anything else that you would like to kind of share? Any final thoughts? Anything that you think Scottish football could learn from, any of the countries that you've worked in?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we can all learn from each other, especially in football. And I think the easiest thing is to think is, we should be doing this. And I say we, I mean, as in Scotland, we should be doing this, and they do this in Germany, they do that. I think you can take ideas. I think what you have to do, that we can't just do what Belgium do and presume that will work in Scotland. Yeah, it might work in Belgium, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it would work in Scotland. I think we need to find what works for Scotland, and you can take ideas, you can maybe take suggestions, and you can tweak things from other people, because that's what a part of coaching is as well. Obviously, recently the transition report came out in Scotland, and I've been away for 13 years, so there's going to be a lot more people in a better position than me to know what's happened in 13 years that I've been away. So a lot of things can change. And obviously the transition report came out, and I think from the positive of that is the kind of the recommendations that came out of that. And from what I've seen, and you might know more yourself, from what I've seen, that those recommendations have been taken quite serious, and they're trying to improve the game in terms of the cooperation system that is coming into place, which I think is a really good idea. B teams playing in the Challenge Cup, if that's correct. So these little things that I've read about and heard, I still have a lot of friends back home that work in the game at clubs and with the FA, and it sounds like that transition report has been taken serious, and there's a lot of steps getting put in place now to try and improve things, because for me that's the most important thing, is to try and improve the game and to give young players a better opportunity. One thing I do like here in Belgium is that in every match day squad, so out of the squad of 20, 18 outfield and 2 goalkeepers, there has to be 6 players who are being developed in Belgium, which I think is a good thing. Now that obviously can be Belgian players, Belgium academy players. It can also mean non-Belgian passport holders, but have been developed for 3 years between the ages of 15 and 21 in the country. So they would still class as being developed in Belgium. So I like that idea, and I think that's good. And I'm not saying that would work in Scotland, but these little things I can talk about from working in Belgium, and I think that's really good, because that gives young players the opportunity. And I don't know, you'll maybe be able to tell me more in terms of the things that the FA and the governing bodies are trying to do. Like, as I said earlier, you're never going to keep everyone happy, and I understand the arguments from all clubs and the all point of view, but sometimes you've got to do what's best for the whole game. And by doing that, you're not going to keep every single club happy, or every manager happy, or every owner happy. It's about trying to get what's best for the whole game, not just each individual.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you have to look at the bigger picture. The homegrown player rule, I mean, it was recommended in the McLeish report, 12, 13, 14 years ago, whenever it was, still never come in. And, it is startling, the numbers of, young Scottish players who are actually getting minutes. I do think things are improving. But
I think it's really important that, because there's probably these type of things get done, not just in football, but all organisations. There's maybe an audit, there's a report done, and a lot of the times it's like, okay, and then it just gets put to the bottom of the pile. I think it's a good thing, from what I've seen from afar, that there seems to be action being taken. It's not been taken lightly, even though some of the things that have came out maybe isn't the most positive, but I think the reaction has been positive to try and change that. And I've been lucky that I've been in Denmark, I've now been in Belgium, I was in Ghana, I've been in the US, and I think that younger age groups, Scotland hold their own. If I look at 50, some of the best 15, 16-year-olds that I've seen, they could hold their own, and with the best 15 and 16-year-olds in Scotland as well. If we talk some of the players that we spoke about that came through Right to Dream, they were top players at 15 and 16. The difference for me then is the top players at 15 and 16 maybe in Scotland don't get that opportunity to then develop as they get that 18, 19 age, whereas a lot of the players in Europe maybe do in other countries. So I do feel, from working in Scotland and then seeing players at those younger age groups, Scotland have the same level, if not better, in some situations, in some positions. But then what happens at that window, and that transition window of going from maybe being, whether it's under 19s, under 18s, B team, to then getting into the first team and getting those minutes, I think is really important. But it has to be earned as well, and I agree with that as well. The jump from second team football, whether that's under 18s, under 19s, or under 23s, the jump from that second tier football in a club to the first team is the biggest jump. And I don't think we should make that jump or that gap smaller, but we need to support more within that. That's the big thing, because if you go through an academy, whether you join an academy at 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, and you go all the way through, if you make it to the first team, a lot of the times in the academy, you've been one of the better players. And you've been used to playing every week. You've been used to getting your minutes, being a key player. And then you go into a first team and you're part of a squad. And that's what young players also need to learn. So it's easy to say, oh, managers need to give young players better. Clubs need to give young players an opportunity. And they do, of course they do. But young players also have to learn as well that it's the reality of first team football, and the reality of first team football isn't the same as academy football, and they have to also earn that right to go and get those minutes. And maybe you're not starting, but maybe you're coming on and you're playing 20 minutes one week, 10 minutes the next week, 30 minutes the next week, and maybe you're still able to get your game time with the under-19s or the B team, whatever it is. And then you build up your minutes in the first team environment. So I think it's a two-way thing. Young players need to understand the reality of first team football. And yes, there needs to be things put in place to be able to facilitate that opportunity for them to get more minutes in the first team football.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think things are getting better. And I think part of that is, I think a lot of the credit has to go down to the young guys who are making inroads, because they are proving that 16 and 17 and 18-year-olds can actually hold their own and can be trusted. I think definitely there is a historical thing there whereby certain managers in Scotland kind of trusted, the older players. And I think young players were slightly disadvantaged.
Yeah.
But I think a new way is being paved that that a lot of managers are now tweaking, like, actually, if I play the young guys, they can actually do rather well. And I've done previous pods with like Norwegian football experts and Croatian football experts, and because those countries are synonymous with like sticking 16, 17-year-olds just in the first team. And a lot of the time it does come down to just trusting them and giving them the opportunity.
That's the thing, like the best club, it's a little bit like the one club model. It shouldn't be, it's academy and then it's first team. And that's one thing I was really impressed with FC Nordsjælland with my time in Denmark, was that was an excellent one club model in terms of the structure right through the whole club, but all the age groups. There was a clear identity, there was a clear style of play right through the whole club, and that included the first team as well. And so everybody had that kind of continuity when they were going through the pathway, and it wasn't like, okay, you're in the academy and then there's the first team, and it was two different organisations. It was a one club model. Obviously, the first team are always going to be at the top of that model because it's the first team, and that's where the players are aspiring to go to. And I still think the first team should be held on that little higher. And as I say, with that gap, because you've got to earn that right. But having that one club model in terms of style of play, in terms of values, I think that's so important. But that takes people like board members, owners, directors, then to have that vision as well. And it's player development, it's long-term player development. It's not short-term fixes. And if you're always trying to have a short-term fix, then we're always going to end up back at stage one. And then, this isn't working. Let's go back again. Which is, and that was a big thing. Like, even as I spoke about the structure at Philadelphia, and I've been lucky that the places that I've went have had good structures. And I say we spoke about Right to Dream. We spoke about Philadelphia, Nordsjælland. As I say, Nordsjælland structure, and that's highlighted not just with players from Right to Dream that's came through that, but players that have came through the Nordsjælland Academy as well.
Brilliant. All right. I think we'll draw the pod to a close, Fraser, but that was thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you. I feel like I've learned quite a bit, which is...
Oh, hopefully. Sorry. Hope I didn't talk too much. I can't be bad for that.
No, it's all good. This is a podcast. It's meant to be in depth. So no, it's all good stuff. So big thank you for coming on the podcast, and a big thank you to everyone who was listening.
No problem. Thank you very much.